You're used to having someone beside you, and you all of a sudden you don't have that.
Imagine a wedding ring that feels more like a shackle than a promise, a tour bus humming down I-40 that doubles as a courtroom and contracts thicker than love letters stacked between two people who barely meet each other's eyes. Nashville sold rhinestones, Sunday smiles, and tidy vows, but behind studio doors the glue was jealousy, pills, empty bottles, and managers whispering, "Just smile for the cameras." Listeners heard perfect harmonies. The neighbors heard plates explode. One singer opened a hospital bill and found another woman's baby staring back. Another couple threw fists, then flowers, then fists again before stepping on stage like nothing cracked. Today we walk through 20 unions that melted faster than a candle under studio lights. Some divorced, some almost, all scarred, and we'll see how the prettiest duets were often recorded after the breakup papers were signed. Ready? Because the first crown to fall wasn't even the heaviest. George Jones stumbled through late arrivals and no-shows while Tammy Wynette grinned like her jaw was wired shut, radio hosts spinning "Stand By Your Man" as if it were a vinyl commandment. Their 1975 divorce didn't end the duet. It turned every shared stage into a seance. He vanished on lawnmowers, she patched trust with pancake makeup, and the public begged for one more waltz across broken glass. Then came George Ritchie, husband number 5, the man friends later said kept Tammy on a short leash and a long prescription list. Control, whispers, locked doors. Whether all true or not, the fog never lifted. Conway Twitty and Temple Medley tried love like a boomerang. Married, divorced, remarried, divorced again, careers arcing upward as promises circled the drain. The tabloids didn't invent their whiplash. The paperwork did. If the so-called royal couple and their rebound chapters couldn't hold steady, what hope did the B-sides have? Before June Carter slipped a ring on Johnny Cash, Vivian Liberto watched her husband dissolve behind tour buses, road temptations, and a honeyed voice that no longer softened for her. Letters turned thin, nights turned colder, and by 1966 she signed away the fairy tale to a machine that preferred drama over devotion. Cash's black suit became armor. Vivian slid into the negative space history forgot. Patsy Cline looked at Gerald Cline, saw a future of apron strings and small dreams, and walked. She refused to shrink for a man who hated her spotlight, choosing a microphone over a mop. June Carter's first go with Carl Smith barely left a public bruise, yet the quiet split cleared the runway for the Cash legend everyone celebrates. Jim Ed Brown and Becky Perry mostly dodged front-page scandal, but rumors still curled under doors. TV fame, backstage whispers, the usual cocktail, proof that even the safe marriages sweated under studio lights. Some couples drifted apart, others detonated. Hank Williams and Audrey were gasoline and matches in a one-room house. He drank hard, she fought back harder, and jealousy slithered through every curtain. Their 1952 divorce hit just months before Hank's heart gave out on the highway, leaving Audrey with memories soaked in songs and spite. Loretta Lynn never filed papers on Doolittle Do Lynn, yet their kitchen fights were legendary. "I socked him right in the mouth," she laughed later. But the bruise on pride doesn't fade as easy as the one on a jaw. Hank Williams Jr. and Becky White lasted 5 years, a blink in honky-tonk time, and he later admitted he lived fast enough to outrun good sense. Love couldn't chase a man barreling downhill on adrenaline and whiskey. When fists didn't end things, judges did. When judges didn't, distance did, and sometimes distance arrived in a brown envelope. Shirley Colley opened mail not meant for her and found a hospital bill listing Willie Nelson as daddy. Only the mother wasn't Shirley. That invoice became a detonator. Divorce followed like smoke after flame. Glenn Campbell's marriage to Billie Jean Nunley cracked under fame, lines of powder, and late-night calls nobody wanted to explain to the kids. Those children later described scars you couldn't photograph. The silence after shouting, the drifting days in 2 houses that felt like neither. Tanya Tucker and Glenn never married, but the ringless circus they ran in the 80s was uglier than most legal splits. Hotel room brawls, rehab runs, smashed glass, and interviews that sounded like scorched earth. Some pairs signed papers. Others just bled in public until the crowd got bored and moved on. Dolly Parton kept Carl Dean out of the spotlight so completely that fans wondered if he existed, yet she's admitted to affairs of the heart that almost shattered the quiet fortress they built. Secrets didn't need tabloids. Rumors did the heavy lifting. Marty Robbins and Marizona Baldwin spent decades together with gaps big enough to park a tour bus. Estrangements, gambling nights, temper flares, biographers stitching the pieces the press never caught. Mel Tillis and Doris Tillis lasted long, ended softly, but the years of distance, late buses, and alleged side trysts acted like termites, slow and relentless. Not every ending explodes. Some just hollow out until the house collapses on its own. Still, the crown for nuclear scandal sits elsewhere, tangled in a family tree that bent every rule. Jerry Lee Lewis married his 13-year-old cousin Myra Gale Brown, and the world lit torches. Rockabilly, country, genre didn't matter. The outrage drowned his chords, tours evaporated, and the divorce eventually closed a chapter no PR man could rewrite. Porter Wagoner's split from Ruth Olive Williams felt routine on paper, yet the real fireworks came when Dolly left his show and he dragged her into court. She paid him back with "I Will Always Love You," a farewell ballad wrapped around a legal brief. Heartbreak became a check, and the check cleared. That's the Nashville trick. Pain into profit, sorrow into singles. The trick doesn't hide the bruise, it just gold plates the bandage. Barbara Mandrell never divorced Ken Dudney, but he quit the Navy to manage her, and the couple rode out rumors, accidents, and exhaustion, while the public waited for the crack that never quite split the glass. Staying together can be as controversial as walking away when every handshake hides a microphone. Merle Haggard divorced Bonnie Owens in '78, yet she kept singing backup for him and even for his next wife. Imagine harmonizing on stage while your ex croons to the woman who replaced you. That's either sainthood or survival instinct dressed in sequins. Jim Ed Brown smiled through whispers. Patsy stormed out of a kitchen. Dolly ducked scandal with a wink, and somewhere in all that noise a pattern emerged. The songs kept coming, even when the love didn't. Hank Sr. fell, Hank Jr. rose, the family name stamped on tragedy and stubbornness. Audrey tried to control a ghost and ended up wrestling smoke. Becky White saw the wild-eyed version of Hank Jr. the public only glimpsed. Meanwhile, Tammy swapped one George for another and still couldn't outrun dark hallways. Richie's shadow grew long. Her friends told stories of locked phones, controlled schedules, and a queen isolated in her own castle. Whether every tale is gospel or gossip, the ache ringing through "till I can make it on my own" feels real enough to make bones hum. Hearts don't lie on tape, even when mouths do. Conway and Temple kept signing and shredding paperwork like it was a duet in 2 keys. First love, second chance, same ending. Proof that time doesn't fix what pride keeps breaking. Willie's billfold secret detonated a marriage. Shirley's heart learned the truth from a clerk. Glenn Campbell turned tenderness into tantrums, then into stage lights, then into apologies that drifted like smoke in a spotlight. Tanya Tucker, barely out of her teens, got swallowed in that firestorm, matching his chaos with her own until the tabloids had to invent new adjectives. Love as a contact sport rarely hands out trophies, just bruises no one photographs. Loretta and Dew swung at each other and still grew old side by side, a paradox wrapped in Appalachian grit. She wrote the fight into vinyl and dared radio to ban it. Patsy refused to fold laundry for a man who couldn't stand her booking another gig. June Carter's divorce from Carl Smith barely made ink, yet it opened the door for a love story country fans treat like scripture. Vivian Liberto ended up as a footnote in that same story, her heartbreak overshadowed by Cash's redemption arc. Erased spouses litter these charts, their names hidden behind platinum plaques. Marty Robbins gambled more than money, tossing nights into neon haze while Marizona waited out storms nobody saw. Mel Tillis laughed on stage, stuttered through jokes, then went home to a wife tired of sleeping alone. Jim Ed Brown kept Becky Perry off headlines, But cameras don't need flashbulbs to catch cold shoulders. Porter, Ruth, and Dolly turned a contract dispute into a genre-defining goodbye. Barbara and Ken held, bent, didn't break, proving sometimes the wildest rumor is that nothing truly exploded. Still, stability in country music often looks like a duck on water, calm above, frantic paddling underneath. By the time George Jones sobered up enough to make peace, Tammy Wynette was gone, leaving questions, pills, and a catalog that sounds like ripped diary pages. Richie guarded her legacy, or his version of it, depending on which hallway you overhear. Willie matured into the gentle outlaw grandpa, but Shirley's envelope moment never vanished from memory. Glenn Campbell faced down demons in public, then dementia in private. Billie Jean Nunley and their kids remembered the mess long before the documentaries showed us the grace. Tanya turned the chaos into longevity, a survivor with rhinestones sewn over scar tissue. Dolly turned whispers into winks, then built an empire out of glitter and generosity, all while Carl Dean hid behind the curtain by choice. Hank Jr. survived falls, literal and figurative. Becky White left with a story most fans never hear between family tradition and the fireworks. Patsy's fierce exit gave her room to roar, only to leave this world too soon from something nobody could soften with euphemisms. Audrey outlived Hank, but not the ache. Merle kept Bonnie near because some ghosts sing better as harmonies. Mel and Doris, Marty and Marizona, Jim Ed and Becky, Porter and Ruth, quiet endings echo too. Yet the heartbreak economy wasn't limited to chart toppers. George and Tammy's road drummer remembers hotel corridors drenched in perfume and paranoia, a place where every door sounded like a cassette rewinding memories best erased. He swears he once saw a lyric sheet taped over a broken mirror because nobody wanted to face what the reflection would confess. Those fragments became verses, the mirror eventually got replaced, and the song went platinum twice. Flip the dial to Willie Nelson's Austin sessions after Shirley's exit. The studio lights burned dim, and Willie filled the space with jokes nobody laughed at, then songs everybody did. He said the best choruses feel like apologies too late to deliver in person. Shirley moved on, but the royalties kept arriving, proof that broken hearts can still generate passive income. Tanya Tucker once told a journalist that she measured trust in minutes, not months, because minutes are what hotel clocks display when you're waiting for a lover who might be signing autographs or escape papers. She packed her suitcase in alphabetical order: anger, acceptance, ambition. Glenn Campbell packed his with tangled guitar chords and half-read devotionals, hoping the two could untie each other. They never did. Dolly wrote Jolene, while Carl Dean changed a spark plug outside, unaware that his wife was immortalizing jealousy in 3 chords. Decades later, Carl still avoids red carpets, saying anonymity feels safer than applause. Their near-miss scandals float above Pigeon Forge like campfire smoke. You can smell it, you can't bottle it, but it colors every sunset just the same. Merle Haggard rehearsed at 5 in the morning because insomnia makes a good metronome. Bonnie Owens brewed coffee for the band even after the divorce, stirring in silence so thick the drummer tapped out a shuffle just to cut it. When Merle married again, Bonnie lined her eyes with darker makeup, not to look younger but to remind herself she still existed in the frame. They harmonized on Today I Started Loving You Again. 2 X's proving closure sometimes includes encore harmonies. Hank Jr.'s near-fatal fall off Ajax Mountain became a cautionary hymn. Becky White visited the hospital wearing the same perfume she wore at their wedding, hoping scent could stitch memory back together. It didn't. He emerged scarred, reborn as a rebel, and she filed away the wedding album like a medical record, evidence of what once worked and why it flatlined. Patsy Cline's spirit lingers inside every wannabe diva who writes her name in lipstick on a Nashville bathroom mirror. Gerald Klein remarried quietly, his new wife hanging curtains in the space Patsy once filled with destiny. When crazy hits the jukebox, Gerald allegedly leaves the diner. Nostalgia can taste like cold coffee and obligation. Vivian Liberto's daughters kept their mother's letters sealed for decades, afraid fans would treat grief like memorabilia. When they finally published the correspondence, readers saw the slow bleeding of hope in each line. Week 1 optimism, week 50 resignation. Cash's voice thundered through arenas, yet Vivian's whispers told the fuller story. The kids split the royalties and the resentment, both too heavy to carry alone. Shirley Colley remarried a truck driver who tuned the radio to anything but Willie. She said silence was easier than comparing chorus lines to life choices. Still, every rest stop sold Willie keychains. Some souvenirs never let go. Temple Medley once joked she and Conway were like a vinyl record, grooves carved deep, scratches inevitable, music worth the wear. At her second divorce hearing, she chose flats over heels because steady footing seemed smarter than style. Conway sent roses, Temple sent the delivery man away. Petals look pretty wilted or not, but apologies expire. Loretta and Dew renewed their vows on a front porch strung with Christmas lights even in July. The guests included chickens, curious kids, and one record executive who smelled a publicity stunt. Loretta just wanted a second shot at the first promise. Dew wanted a cold beer. They both got half of what they wanted, which is marriage math in coal country. Jerry Lee Lewis played piano so loud at his cousin wife's birthday party that neighbors filed noise complaints. Myra blew out 13 candles and 26 illusions. Years later, she sold that piano at auction, the keys still stuck on the note he slammed during their worst argument. Someone bought the relic, proving people will pay for history, even when it's out of tune. Porter Wagoner passed a note to Dolly once. "Lightning can strike twice if you stand in the storm." She wrote back, "I'm building a cabin out of the ashes." Tour after tour, the lawsuit loomed, but on stage their smiles held. Audiences cheered louder because tension tastes electric when it's hidden behind harmony. Jim Ed Brown and Becky Perry recorded a Christmas special post-separation, pretending snowflakes, not sarcasm, dusted the set. The studio audience clapped on cue. Fake pine smelled like nostalgia. After the final take, they hugged like co-workers retiring on the same day. Polite, relieved, aware tomorrow's mailbox would still bring residual checks but not reconciliation. Marizona Baldwin kept Marty Robbins' original racing helmet on the mantle even after the split. She said it reminded her that speed thrills until it wrecks. Marty sent postcards from every track, none signed with love, all ending "wish you were here," a phrase that can sting more than honesty. Ken Dudney once missed Barbara's birthday because a venue double-booked her with a rodeo. She spent the night inhaling sawdust and neon disappointment, then stepped on stage and nailed every note, tears disguised as sweat. Back in the bus, Ken played the voicemail apologizing 17 times before deleting it. He didn't erase the pattern. Glenn Campbell entered rehab with a guitar and left with a notebook. Billie Jean Nunley filed clippings of every tabloid headline, highlighting exaggerations in red, lies in blue, and truths in yellow. By the end, the scrapbook resembled abstract art, proof that reality comes in shades indistinguishable under flashbulbs. Bonnie Owens told Merle that harmony requires humility. Merle replied, "Humility requires hunger." They both laughed, knowing neither had starved in years. Yet backstage buffet lines can't feed the places music grows. The hollow parts, the hopeful parts, the parts divorces leave aching. Vivian's final letter ended. The echo lasts longest after the arena empties. Tammy's last diary line read, "Tomorrow I sing again. Different women, same lesson. The spotlight heals nothing. It only keeps the wound visible. So what do you call a genre that turns busted vows into platinum plaques? Therapy with a steel guitar, maybe." These marriages didn't just fall apart. They funded the soundtrack. Every court date birthed a chorus, every slam door a bridge, every lonely motel night another verse scribbled on hotel stationery. Fans bought the records, not the reality. Yet the reality bled through anyway. Next time you hear a duet that sounds too smooth, ask who's standing just off mic, waiting to sign papers, or already gone. Hearts broke, careers soared, legends formed because in Nashville, the truth doesn't always rhyme, but it always sells.